say that Kyle Shanahan was complicit. I don't know if that's the right word. Complicit.
Yeah, he had a vanilla game plan on purpose.
kind of that I've heard people say like he was throwing the ball way too much, trying to maybe make that case for or for not Christian McCaffrey, which I think would be a hole in that argument for people. But do you feel like, I'll put this on me, I think Kyle Shanahan is getting too much hate. I felt like even though they weren't running the ball that much and the run game was effective, I can totally understand maybe after seeing how amped Brock Purdy is, the criticism of Kyle Shanahan should have leaned on the run game more. But the reason it's hard for me to criticize him passing so much is they were walking down the field. Like the passing was working up until the quarterbacks got, both quarterbacks, by the way, not one, but the passing game was working for both of them up until they got to the red zone. And then they both were like, you get a car, and you get a car with the football, unfortunately. So I don't know. Maybe I can understand as a coach, you need to do more than game plan. So you need to like understand the psyche element. And so maybe you need to start leaning on the run game because you see that your quarterback's amped up. But when it comes to strictly play calling, I didn't have a huge problem with the passing attack because I felt like it was working up until the interceptions. How did you feel about Kyle Shanahan's game plan? And do you think he's getting, do you hear maybe it's just the people I listen to, do you hear the hate? And do you think he's getting too much hate? Or do you think the criticism is rightfully so? How do you feel about Kyle this week?
I don't think it's hate per se. Like, I think there is some criticism of the play calling and not having enough runs. I think, but certainly watching the game live, I was kind of, I wouldn't say like criticizing the play calling, but I was kind of wondering, where and when they were going to mix in some runs. I think it would have benefited a little bit. Ultimately, like, I guess we'll never know, but I think just having that extra threat of, okay, could it be a run? Is it going to be a pass? Maybe would have helped going up against that Ravens defense. Not sure.
Especially because they were like number one in pass defense and they were poor against the run.
I mean, they do have a good run defense this season, but like the last few games, they had kind of dropped the ball a little bit with that. So I would have tried to test that out early and just see if you could have gotten away with it. But at the same time, I think Kyle Shanahan's his confidence in Brock Purdy has grown. And it feels like every week he was kind of just not challenging Brock, but just wanting to, I think, just trusting that he can handle whatever like he was going to call for Brock. Right. And you kind of see that in like some of the throws that they were attempting early in the game. Like those were really aggressive, like ballsy throws to attempt against this Ravens defense right off the bat. Like that kind of tells you what the mindset was going into that game. They were going to try to be aggressive. And so I think that tells you that Kyle had the confidence in Brock to, execute that. Obviously, at the end of the day, like I think that interception in the end zone, Brock just got a little greedy on that one. But they were moving the ball. They were getting a lot of chunk plays by passing the ball. I would have liked to see some more balance in the game plan early on. But, they mixed it in a little later when Christian McCaffrey got his touchdown, that drive, they had a really good balance. So yeah, I understand, I guess, like some of the frustration from fans. But it is what it is. One thing I was kind of thinking is like, I feel like Kyle Shanahan like maybe outsmarts himself. I know some people don't like that I said that, but and what I just mean by that is when he's going up against really good teams, it's like it's almost like he assumes what the other team is going to come into the game wanting to stop, and he says to himself, we're just not going to try that. There.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like he's even low-key admitted that in press conferences before, that he kind of does that. And it's like, no, just do what you do best.
Right.
And have faith that you can do that better then they can stop it, or that they can
Exactly.
game plan for it.
So, yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Was it against Dallas in the playoffs that Juszczyk after the game came off and he said that Kyle Shanahan was doing that type of thing, trying to get too cute, and he was like, let's just do what we do best, and then they went to that and they ended up winning the game. Does Kyle Shanahan's performance in this game then, because I think all season people have kind of been like, Kyle Shanahan is growing, this growth is necessary because he hasn't been able to kind of make it over the hump, and maybe things like showing confidence in your quarterback might be, a check in the growth box, but then not running the ball when you should run the ball is definitely a big giant check in the why do you always do this in every game that's important, Kyle box. So do you feel any differently about Kyle's ability to win a Super Bowl? That feels like a really dramatic question after just one game, where it feels like majority of it was on the quarterback, but I still think maybe it's a fair question. Do you feel differently? Maybe, and maybe you could say, have you felt differently this whole season? And then does this game change it? Or do you kind of feel the same that you have all season about Kyle's ability to win a Super Bowl with this team?
I mean, I was feeling better about Kyle Shanahan because I thought that the offense was kind of evolving and growing because of what Brock Purdy was doing, because of the trust that you see Kyle Shanahan have with him, all those things. I don't think we really saw like a game this season, or at least I can't recall where the 49ers just, I guess there have been some games, but they didn't end up losing. So it's not something that people point out where like, they don't really run the football. Eventually they get back to it. I guess like I would like to see them just try to see if it works in the first drive, and if it doesn't in the first couple, then you can abandon it, like most other teams do at that point if it's not working. But at least try it, like, I guess. But to answer your question on, if I think Kyle can win a Super Bowl, yeah, I mean, yes, he should. If he just does what this offense always does, that I think that would be great. But if he tries to like do too much chest moving and like outsmarting himself, then I think it's kind of counterproductive.
Did you hear Chris Forrester was asked about that? Like, did the Ravens do something that steered you guys away from the run, or was there something in practice or anything like that? And Chris Forrester said in practice he thought that they were going to be very run game focused. He thought his run game was great, thought it was working well within the game. He was like, you have to ask Kyle Shanahan about that, because I wish we would have ran the ball more. I felt really confident in our ability to run. I thought that was kind of interesting that he was asked directly about that, and he was like, "Yeah,
go the game."
I think the question. I wish the transcript, but I think the question was like, "Did the Ravens show you guys something that made you want to go away from the run?" And he was like, "No, actually, they showed us stuff that encouraged us to run. So I don't know why we didn't do that."
Yeah, I'll have to check that back. I don't see that yet in the transcript thing, but I'll keep an eye on that. That's interesting, but I guess it's not really, surprising.
Yeah, and obviously he's gonna have confidence in his run game because that's his side of the ball. But I do think all these things kind of go to add up to being like, hey Kyle, I'm not doubting your ability to win a big game, but also maybe be able to take a heat check of how your quarterback's doing and how the rest of your team is going. And if your running back is averaging like for the first half, he was averaging Christian McCaffrey was averaging like 9 yards a carry. I think he had 9 touches for like 90 yards, 10 yards a carry. Ended up throughout the whole game averaging 7.4. So yeah, definitely would have hoped that they would have leaned on that a little bit